From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, the age-old question, transfer portal high school recruiting. You can only pick one to excel at. Which one do you want? We discuss. Picks 11 through 15 of the Warchant preseason top 40, and some off-topic questions that carry us into the weekend. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Warchant BOGO. BOGO being spelled B-O-G-O. Buy one, get one free. That's how it works. And you go to VitaminEnergy.com and insert that promo code. Plenty of options there. The Immune Plus, Workout Plus. Shoot, maybe you want 8 hours sleep. Help you sleep a little bit better. Maybe you got enough energy. The 8 hours sleep will definitely put you to slumber in a nice, peaceful fashion. It's got melatonin in there. It's got some valerian root extract, lavender flower extract. It's all in there. Doctor recommended, doctor formulated, tastes great, clinically proven, clinically tested. VitaminEnergy.com. It's got Florida State folks behind the entire endeavor there, so help out Noles, helping other people. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Won't you hit the thumbs up, please? Leave a 5-star rating and review on the Apple Podcast app. That would be very much appreciated from both of us, myself, Aslan, and Corey Clark, who's here, lead senior writer, Warchant.com. What up, Corey?
What up, dog?
Another day in life, man. Another day in paradise, brother. Another day in paradise.
Amen. Amen, brother.
How the Bravos been doing of late?
They've been playing better. I don't think it's in the cards for them to catch the Phillies this year. The Phillies are a juggernaut, but I like that. It hadn't worked out when we win the division and they're the wild card, and then we meet them in the playoffs and they just beat the bejesus out of us. So let's flip the script.
Okay.
Let's have them have all the expectations. We'll play earlier in the playoffs, and maybe that'll get us rolling. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hoping. But yeah, they're playing all right, even without Acuna. Offense is starting to come around, Aslan. Thanks for asking.
Who's going to make the playoffs first? Tom Lang's Mets or Jeff Cameron's Pirates?
I think that's a good question. I would always go with the Mets because their owner is willing to spend money, and the Pirates owner is not. So I would always say the Mets have a better chance of getting there, even if it's not quite this year.
Okay. Let's get to the rest of these questions on the Renegade Express mailbag. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it. It's awesome. We begin at the top of the mailbag. Philip Morris. He was a winner last month in the generating discussion, so he didn't win the grand prize, but he's going to be entered into the grand prize drawing at the end of the year for that portable generator or portable power station. Cummins Lifestyle. Follow them on Instagram. Point blank, would you rather have the number one portal or number one high school recruiting class? Evergreen kind of question, Corey. We can always debate this one. Always debate it.
Well, portal. I mean, I guess I'm more of the immediate help, not the guys that'll be 2 or 3 years down the road help. But yeah, I would rather have the number one portal class in the country. But I want it ranked differently. Like, I think they grade them now on just how many dudes you get. That seems to be like the overriding effort is you got 26 guys. I want, and other teams only got 9. If I got by my measurements the best portal class in the country, like immediate starters, guys that are in the NFL ready, those type of guys, the guys I've been getting, quite frankly, the last 2 or 3 years, that's how I would judge it. I would want the number one portal class, at least for that year, right? Look, Florida State had the best recruiting class in the country in 2011. I don't know. I think Rashad Green is the only one that helped them that year. Maybe Jernigan played some too. I mean, that's just how the sport works. But I can tell you this, a lot of these transfers have helped immediately. So that's why I would always choose the portal with a question like that. But it makes sense. It's a good question.
On3 calls it a proprietary algorithm, but it is weird. It's interesting. Florida State's transfers in have an average ranking of 78.4. The ones that they've lost, 65.8. Meanwhile, Louisville's the number one team according to the portal. Their incoming is like 4 points less, and their outgoing is the same as Florida State, yet they're ranked ahead of Florida State. So they both have lost like the same amount of comparable talent, but Florida State has added better quality, but Louisville's brought in a larger number of that. What I do wonder is, Corey, I'm with you, man. I do think the transfer portal is sustainable. I think you can build a championship caliber roster. They did it last year.
Yeah.
The quarterback didn't stay healthy and whatever, Kirk Herbstreit, et cetera, et cetera. But I also get it, man. There's something about getting these kids day one and them sticking around your school for 3 years. That's kind of cool. But so Florida State's number 4, Corey, in the transfer portal rankings. Ole Miss is ahead of them. Colorado's ahead of them. Louisville's ahead of them. Maybe I would want Ole Miss's roster, but I'm not even 100% sure on that. But I certainly know I would not want Colorado or Louisville's roster, and they're ranked ahead of Florida State. Meanwhile,
but also not exactly the blue bloods of the sport. Those three, right? Ole Miss, Colorado, and Louisville aren't teams that you want to be. You want to be in the. I get what you're saying, because if you look at the high school recruiting rankings, I assume that's Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, those types of teams.
Yeah, LSU, Notre Dame, that's the top 5.
Those are the teams you kind of want to be partnering with. Those are the teams you want to be swimming with. Not the, no offense, but not the Louisvilles or the Colorados of the world. So I get that point. But I just think if you're asking me for 1 year, which I thought this was what it was, I guess if the question was in perpetuity, what would you rather have? Well, yeah, the answer is the number 1 recruiting class, because you're building a foundation with really good players. You're building depth. You're not having to go all over Tarnation trying to find a guard. Like you have some stuff from within if you can keep them, and you keep your core that way. But for 1 year. Yeah, man, I want the number 1 portal class.
Are they there yet? They're going to lose Shaheem. You're going to lose Azarie. I mean, these are like your homegrown pieces of talent.
Patrick Payton, probably.
Yeah, so I just wonder, because the question doesn't specify, and we don't really have to get too in the weeds on that, but I think everybody was hoping that this was something that you would use as like a stopgap, and then you would wean yourself off of it. I don't think you have to, though, and
no.
It seems like Mike Norvell and the staff doesn't think so either, because they continue to use that as an important part of their mix and build.
Correct. Yeah. I look. I think offensive line is where you want to promote, you want to recruit, you want to get better there. It sounds like they have a chance to have a really special offensive line high school recruiting class. I don't think the portal is where you go get those types of guys necessarily. Just judging from Florida State's history, they've gotten some solid players on the offensive line. I'm not trying to besmirch any of those dudes, but they didn't get NFL caliber players. I think on the offensive line, at least for now, I feel like those guys are still mostly homegrown. So you don't want to depend on the portal for offensive line. Everything else, go for it. Maybe quarterback too, but everything else, go for it. Go get the best available from the portal.
McNats. Many fans, including the founder of this website, which don't subtweet our guy, say his name, .com, Gene Williams, McNatt.
That's right. Gene Dub, G-Dub.
Many fans, including Gene Williams, were talking about the money discrepancy of our current and future conference years before it ballooned into the amount it is now. It will continue to get worse. Our fear is that facilities will not be able to keep up and our coaches will be poached to higher paying programs. As of right now, Clemson's the only program that has joined us in this battle. What would it take for other schools to join in? Would it be Ole Miss taking away Louisville's basketball coach? NC State losing their baseball coach to Missouri? Seems like Florida State's trying to get out in front of this before it's too late. Other schools are just sitting back and waiting. Are they just waiting to see what happens in the court system? You would think that the more well-off schools would rather blow up this conference and grab a life raft than stay in a sinking conference.
Yeah, I think for most of the schools, though, the ones you mentioned, like NC State or Louisville or somebody like that, it's like, well, this is as good as it can get for them. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but they're not going to the SEC or the Big Ten. They're not really competing for national championships in the sport that matters. So, yes, I see that. I see, like, NC State losing a baseball coach or a basketball coach or Louisville doing that, and it will upset them. But the sport that's driving everything is football, and those two schools have never been really competing at the level that Florida State is trying to compete with. And so I think it's like, okay, yeah, they could go. I don't think the ACC is going to necessarily crumble and be nothing. And if it does, those two schools would have a landing spot in the Big 12 probably, is what I would think. Louisville would be a perfect fit for the Big 12. But, yeah, I think that the reason they're not doing it is because they don't have delusions. They know what they are. Like, they know that this is as good as they can be. In Florida State, by the way, I'm not calling Florida State delusional, but they know they're not at Florida State's level when it comes to, brand recognition, history, tradition, audience, ratings, viewership, fan base, all that stuff. They know they're not anywhere close when it comes to Florida State and the sport that matters. So they're happy taking Florida State's money. This is as good as it can get for them. The SEC is not going to be banging down their door, neither is the Big Ten. They don't move the needle at all when it comes to that sport. So why would they ruffle feathers? They're not. They know they'll have a landing spot in a similar situation if the ACC ceases to exist. But they also know they're not going to be in the SEC or the Big Ten. So why rush to do it? Just see how this plays out and land in the Big 12 or some other conference that gets created when we see how this final product presents itself. But yeah, they're not Florida State, so they don't. It doesn't matter to them like it matters to Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot to add to that. It's almost like, the bully's picking on me, and you're my friend. How come you won't, help me beat up the bully? It's like, hey, well, he's not really bothering me. But it's like, hey, if you beat up the bully by yourself, you're going to be the toughest person in the entire school. So it's like if Florida State takes down the ACC, everyone's going to be like, wow, look what Florida State just did. And then Tony Petitti, future boss, overlord of the Big Ten, or Greg Sankey's like, wow, I was impressive. Well done, Peter Collins. Well done, Michael Alford. You want to hang out on our boat?
Right.
And then we'll be all right. Moving along here.
NC State are in the dinghy.
Yeah.
They're not on the boat.
In your dinghy. A little bit of, let's go to this one. Random_John. Good morning, Aslan and Corey. May today find you in great health and spirits.
Oh, thank you.
When college football becomes the Power 2, do you feel there will be a czar, commissioner that runs everything and makes the rules? Will they make the decision if the players are to be considered employees of the school? And if so, the player's main job is to go to class or to focus more on sports for the sole purpose of winning? If so, how does the power structure work when schools have their own big money boosters wanting to make choices and rules? At some point, does each sport get its own commissioner like the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, etc.? Ultimately, what does the next iteration of college football actually look like? Where does it go from there?
Yeah, we were talking about this on headlines. I think it's going to end up looking like the NFL. You're going to have maybe it's all under one umbrella, but you have two big conferences, like the AFC versus the NFC. You want to call it the SEC and the Big Ten, whatever you want to do, but it's all under one umbrella. And they all play each other, like the SEC and Big Ten play each other. And you have your playoff. You're going to have your, 12, 14, 18-team playoff. And that's how I think it will end up looking, I don't know, in the next decade. By the time their deals are up, the SEC, their new deals are set to be up still before the ACC's current deal. So, yeah, by the time those new deals are up, I think they'll be more, I don't know, known in game. The in game will be known in by the end of this decade. I think we're all heading to that direction. But as far as the other sports, I don't know who would be. I don't know who would run it. I don't know that you elect a commissioner who would agree to that. Who would do it? I do think that it will. I think what will probably happen and needs to happen at some point is it just needs to break away and be its own sport. And then all the other sports can go back to being college athletics. I don't know if that'll happen. It's what needs to happen. So asking about a commissioner of every sport, I mean, I don't know, man. I think the NCAA could actually have some teeth again if it didn't have to worry about football. And football could be its own entity with its own rules, its own, governance. And the NCAA could go back to ruling, quote-unquote amateur athletics again. But I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't have a timeline for it. I hope it does happen in my lifetime because I think it'd be kind of cool, and it needs to happen because we keep almost trying to I say this as somebody that lived college football and loved college football my whole life. Is like I still hearken back to the days of 82 and 86 and 91 where it felt more, innocent. But those days are completely gone. That sport isn't the same sport. It has ceased to exist. This is our new reality, and the quicker we get to it being NFL light, professionalized completely, the better I think it will be for everyone and for all the other sports.
The problem is, like, nothing is going to surprise me. And I know money, like, follow the money, but I mean, is that the end all be all of all? Is because when you think about them breaking away, and I don't disagree with the whole two conference sort of approach where you have an AFC, NFC, but like they already have it. Like they each have 16 teams. They can do the NFL model tomorrow if they wanted to, the SEC and the Big Ten. They've got 16 teams each conference. Do exactly what Roger Goodell and Madison Avenue are doing. But then I also get it, like Florida State doesn't want to be left out, and I'm sure they're a valuable property for sure, but like, is it how much financial sense it makes sense for Florida State to get involved in the financials of the SEC and what those schools are making, but does it make sense for them to bring Florida State in? Like, how much more can they really leverage? How much more water can they squeeze from the stone by adding Clemson and Florida State to their conference? That makes it worth everybody else agreeing to getting a smaller piece of the pie because the actual pie is going to be bigger. So the slices being smaller still results in having a bigger piece than what you have now. Like, none of that would surprise me. Like, it would not surprise me if the Big Ten and SEC are eventually just like, it makes no sense. Financially, this makes no sense. We're fine. You guys are a great brand, but we're totally fine without you. But at the same token, it would make sense. I can see there's none that will happen that I'll be like, well, we should have seen this coming the entire time, because both these things are like competing values and they're both true. I could also see them being like, there's no way we're going to let a valuable property like Florida State just float into independent oblivion. Like, we're going to figure out a way to make this work because we can leverage it somehow.
Yeah, and I just you hope at the end of the day, the powers that be, which I guess I'm talking about Sankey, but all those presidents, all those ADs, will be like, do we really need $91 million a year in TV revenue? Is it okay to have 82? Is 82 good enough? Hey, all my coaches, let's gather around. If I told you we had $82 million just in TV revenue, do you think you could make that work? Do we need 120? Do we need 180? Do we need $400 million a year in TV revenue per school to make this work? Or can we get by on 81 million or 73 million and let some other teams and other programs and other fan bases get to enjoy it too? Like, what is that extra $7 million? What are you doing with that, Vanderbilt? What are you doing with that with Purdue? Yeah, I mentioned you, Purdue. You're not going anywhere. Like, what are you doing with that extra $7 million that you would lose if Florida State joined this conference? You ain't doing anything with it. Let's let more people into the party. I just would hope, like, at some point they're like, what are we doing with all this money? What is this money? What is this supposed to go to? Is there an end game? Or is it going to be the next deal after that, every school gets $140 million, and the year after that, $250 million? Like, there is a cap. There is a ceiling. It will hit it eventually. And you hope they don't just have a bunch of once proud programs on the side of the road, disheveled and hungry, when they finally hit that ceiling. You hope they open the tent, to use as many possible metaphors and analogies as I can, to let more people in. That's what I hope happens. But yes, it's all about money. It's all about chasing the money, and it just never stops.
Also, real quick on that too, I understand the commissioners are like overlord of all this, but I feel like committees are just, there's always going to be a committee. Like the CFP, listen, it's a 7+5 model right now, 5 conference champions, 7 wild cards. There's still going to be, those 7 wild cards are still going to be voted on by the actual CFP committee. So I still think even if we end up in some sort of mega league, 40 teams, 2 mega conferences or whatever, I still think it's never going to be one dude. I still think it's going to be some sort of rotating every 2 years. It's going to be different ADs.
I don't think that was the thought, is there would be a commissioner or a czar that figures out who the football playoff teams are. It's more about, okay, is this good for the sport? Is this bad for the sport? Sorry, Greg. No, you can't. I don't know what he'd want to do. Bomb Nashville to get Vanderbilt off your books. You can't do that, man. There would be somebody that's in charge of the good of the sport. But who's employing them? Who's paying them? Yeah. Probably Fox and ESPN. So, again, it all comes back to what people want in their agendas. But yes, I think a czar or a commissioner would be great for this sport. We needed one 20 years ago, and we might not be in this mess we're in now if they actually had the good of the game at heart.
What are they called? Ombudsman?
Yeah.
They made one of those that can try to be like a moral conscience, but I still think it's going to be some sort of like committee. It'll be 3 ADs from the Big Ten, 3 ADs from the SEC. Like they will, and they'll be on a 2-year rotating cycle to make the rules and regulations of conference play and coaching moves and hires and roster limits. Like it's never going to. I don't know if Greg Sankey wants all that. I think he likes his lording over his 16 teams. I don't know if he wants all that responsibility for like an entire 40-team mega conference, but I don't know. Maybe I've underestimated his ambition / greed / desire to ruin everything great in our lives.
Yep.
You know what's not going to ruin your day and the things that are great in your life is a nice, delicious lunch or maybe even a dinner. Any time of day, doesn't matter. Corner Pocket delivers. Not literally.
They are open at night too. Yeah, they stay open until 2 a.m. Aslan.
I've heard. What time does the kitchen close?
1:30 usually. You can get wings and stuff around 1:30. They're still back there. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Man, Bill don't mess around. They don't mess around over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Can't miss with their signature starters, also their great wings, classic appetizers, salads, wraps, sandwiches, and more. It's all delicious. Check it out. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Lunch specials 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99 on Fridays. Choices made for you. It's a chicken strip basket, hand-breaded, served with a dipping sauce, or tossed in a sauce of your choosing. More soccer on the TVs probably over the weekend, too. Hopefully, maybe get some Euro 2024 action in there, too, Corey. Hopefully, knockout round. We'll see if we can make it happen. You go make it happen over the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. All right, last couple questions here, Corey, before we get started on our weekend. Let's go to our guy, Island Chief. Wake up. Mike Norvell going into Georgia with his first 2 announced commitments since January. He hasn't forgotten. Or is it just a coincidence and he isn't low-key savage? Second part, in the coming season, how many times in the 12-game season will Florida State control both lines of scrimmage? How many games will Florida State outrush their opponent?
Yeah, I mean, I foresee them. We do think we'll see. We'll see if it materializes. We do think the offensive line will be better. I think they've upgraded at guard. Maybe they've upgraded at tackle. We'll see. But yeah, I would say they're going to have the better line of scrimmage, and maybe not Notre Dame because it's Notre Dame. I don't know really about Miami, what their line of scrimmage is going to be. Plus, you never know with injuries and everything. But I would say you would think that they would have the better line of scrimmage, taking both into account. 10 of the 12, 11 of the 12, which is it's a good way to start a season. I mean, you've got a ton of experience on your line of scrimmage. And not just average experience, like good experience. Like these guys are good football players. They're good college football players. So that helps. And then I would say their goal, I'm sure, is to outrush all of them. That's not going to happen. But I would say, I don't know how to answer that. I'm not going to give you a number. I will say this: it's not even a hot take. It's a mild take. They will outrush more opponents this year than they did last year.
Oh,
I'll go ahead and throw that out there because I don't think they did that a ton.
I should have looked this up. I wonder when was the last time they were outrushed.
I'm going to guess the Orange Bowl.
Well, it's
maybe Florida. I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, they did. Well, that's just it. They were good against the run last year, especially there at the end. Maybe
Virginia
Boston
Tech.
College. Boston College for sure. Yeah, Virginia Tech. That quarterback ran a good bit. That was a pretty good. Yeah, I mean they weren't very good running. They weren't a good running offense last year. They just weren't.
But
they were a pretty good offense.
Trey Benson also busted off those large runs against.
Correct. But they had so many 1 and 2 and negative 1 yard runs, and then he'd hit a 50-yarder that would kind of skew how well the running game was doing. I think they'll be much more consistent in grinding out first downs, having a little maybe more sustained drives, and not just counting on Trey Benson to hit an 80-yarder. Those are awesome. Those are fun. But more consistent ground attack would be nice to see.
Was not Virginia Tech. I'm going to check Clemson. That's the only other game that I think maybe could have been.
I would say Boston College, buddy.
Oh, they outrushed Clemson. Clemson outrushed them. Man, they only ran for 22 yards against Clemson.
Yeah, I know.
Man,
I don't think
really?
they ran for a lot against Boston College either.
Well, I mean, Clemson happened after Boston College, didn't it?
No.
Yeah, Clemson happened. Yeah, Clemson was September 23rd.
Oh, yes, Clemson did. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, yeah. But I was saying that's 2 in a row where they didn't outrush their opponents. Maybe Duke probably didn't outrush Duke, unless they hit some. They did hit some runs late in the game. But hey, we could do this later, Aslan.
We're in it.
It's our Friday.
Yeah. Duke did outrush them.
There you go.
All right. So yeah, it happened. All right. Low-key savage, though? I don't know. Yeah, maybe this was like Mike's ringing out like, hey, Kirby, I'm still here. Like, I'll never forget this.
I will say this, and again, you guys know my history. I did go to the University of Georgia, but you know my history with Florida State, and you know what I think about this head coach of Florida State. I really like Mike Norvell. This is not a shot in any way. Not a shot at him, not a shot at his program. I can promise you Kirby isn't losing sleep thinking about what Mike Norvell's doing at Florida State, and that is not a shot. Kirby's going to get who he wants, almost always in that state. And I can promise you Kirby's going to have a top 3, top 5 recruiting class because that's just how it works. That's how it's always worked. So it's awesome that he got a couple of guys from Georgia. I think one of them Georgia even wanted.
Two.
That's
two
cool.
from Georgia.
They both wanted Georgia. I know, but like, did Georgia want both of them?
I think the kid had an offer, the defensive lineman. I mean, the C.J. Wiley kid, Dog Nation had that thing. Go back and look at the announcement, like the utter silence in the entire room. The Dog Nation people broadcasting it.
Oh, really? That's funny. That's cool. Well, good. Yeah. Again, I don't think Kirby is, been. That's not a punch in the gut.
Right.
They'll be fine. They always, just like Florida State would be fine. They just like. Florida, it wasn't a punch in the gut to Mike Norvell when Gilbert Edmond went back to South Carolina. And Shane Beamer said what he said, like, hey, sometimes they go to a place and they realize they don't like it there. They'd rather be back here with this crew. It's like, yeah, man, sure. All right, okay. I think Norvell was okay. He slept pretty well that night.
Well,
but not to besmirch those kids. Those are big additions. Those are good additions. It's cool that you're recruiting against those guys and winning some of those battles. 2 things. Number one, it's still June.
Yes.
Nothing's been signed.
Yes.
And also, Georgia's going to get their fair share. They just move on to the next one. I'm sure they just move on to the next one. It's awesome to win those battles, but you haven't won it yet. And also, Georgia's going to win plenty of their own.
If we gave Kirby sodium pentothal, though, like, don't you think? No one's making him lose sleep. But if we're like, hey, man, like, who's the one guy that you're like, man, it'd be really nice if he just decided to quit or, like, leave, go to pro ball or something. I mean, that Big Tex Mike.
Yeah, no.
Sure wish he'd leave.
I think Kirby is pretty happy with the way his program is running right now.
All right. I tried. It is also June. I feel good, though. Hopefully the kids will stick. Stick with your commitments, kids.
Yeah. Hey, signing day's been pushed up.
That's what it means.
A couple weeks. So yeah, it's that much sooner they can sign on the dotted line. And then what does that mean, Aslan? Couldn't they just leave the next day anyway? And just transfer whoever that was their second choice? Like literally the next day after they send in the fax or the PDF or whatever they do now? Who knows? But yes, it's awesome that they're winning some battles against some big schools. And the wide receiver in particular seems like a really big deal.
Oh, yeah,
so
CJ
that'd be nice.
He's really talented, but I think a lot of it came out of like such left field. I mean, he was at that On 3 Elite event in Nashville, and I interviewed him. And, I mean, we put up everyone's interview. Like, to the best of my knowledge, I think every single interview that I shot, we ended up posting to our YouTube page. We did not post him. And I don't know if that was I don't know how purposeful that was, but I remember interviewing him. I'm like, yeah, he's not coming to Florida State. Like,
Hey, he's throwing you off the scent.
Seriously, man.
Yeah,
good for him.
Did a good job of it.
Oh, good for him. We do need to talk about the top 40, but last question though before we talk about that, because we dropped 11 to 15 a few days ago, and we weren't able to, or maybe you did, were able to get on a video and elaborate on your things. But we got the walking Nole. It's that day of the week, my guys. One half question before I get to my real question. Corey, my family and I are likely going back to Lake Lanier August weekend getaway. You mentioned something the other day about how many bad things have happened in that lake. As someone who is not familiar with those stories, can you elaborate?
Well, it's a bunch of drunk rednecks driving in boats.
Hey.
Look, I say that with love. I grew up 8 minutes from Lake Lanier. I'm just telling you, I was on a boat with a few. Like, it's just, I say that lovingly. It's a term of endearment. But, look, there's drownings. Usually they involve alcohol, but not always. And I just feel like, not even joking around now, I feel like there's probably 3 to 5 to 6 deaths a summer in Lake Lanier. And that's been going on my whole life.
Yeah.
So, it's just you get used to that being like the lake of death because there's been a documentary made about it. There's just a lot of accidents that happen on Lake Lanier, usually involving alcohol, but not always. So that's what I meant. So just be safe and responsible, and you'll be fine. Just be safe and responsible, you'll be fine, and look out for crazies, especially during the weekends. Weekdays you're okay. Weekends, Friday and Saturday, you know what you might get on the lake.
I think I almost went into some sort of rabbit hole one day about this stuff because I saw like on Twitter it was trending. And I don't know, like apparently maybe like its creation forced a sizable part of the population out of that area.
Yeah, it drowned in a city. It was a man-made lake. So that's another thing. It's got to be one of the biggest man-made lakes in the world. But it's a man-made lake where they really have like I think they like flushed cities. Like there's cities that are underground, like in the water, way down. Maybe not now. I don't know how all that works. But they like they opened the dam and flooded these cities until they were at the bottom of a lake. Now, they did give warning.
Right, yeah, it wasn't.
It didn't just like on a Tuesday. There was a flyer on the telephone pole Monday night, and then Tuesday, here comes the water. They did give them months and years of warning, but yeah, that did happen where there's like there's cities and like cemeteries down in the bottom of the lake, I'm pretty sure.
So, yeah, careful out there.
Yeah, please do. And my glasses are down there somewhere.
The walk, I don't know why that makes. I mean, like it's no skin off your teeth, but I can just like you. I can just see you come like, oh, babe. Like after Steph's like, where are your glasses, Corey?
Yeah,
like,
no, it was very disappointing when I realized that.
On to my real question: if you two could pick one really extreme thing to do, what would it be? Crab boating, deadliest catch, dive with sharks, free climbing cliffs in Arizona. Thanks for what you do. We're so close to kickoff.
Definitely not those two.
I want to run with the Bulls, kind of, Corey, in Pamplona.
My dad and my sister did back in the 90s.
Because I feel like you can. I just want to flirt with the extreme power of a crazed animal like a bull. I guess I want to be able to almost like feel its energy coming at me, but I just want it to be over within 2 seconds. That's the thing. I don't want to skydive. Right. Just getting up the altitude, that's going to create so much anxiety than actually jumping out of it, my stomach going into my throat and wrapping a knot around myself. Like it's too long. I just want like a little shot. I don't want a 16-ounce pint of danger and adventure. It's one little shot.
I don't have an appetite for any of it. Like I was trying to think while you were talking, like, yeah, I can see like it doesn't appeal to me. Like terror. Just even if it's just for 90 seconds or 4 seconds, that terror is not something I want to chase. And I feel like those people do those things to feel that rush of the terror and then getting out of the terror.
Yes.
And it's not to me
that's sending Brady off to school every day for you, huh?
But that's right. Yeah, that was growing up on Jimmy Carter Boulevard. In suburban Atlanta back in the 80s, man. I lived this. Every day I was doing basically something terrifying. So, something extreme. Like walking to Rockbridge Elementary, that was extreme, the stuff I had to walk by. But, yeah, so I just – the juice isn't worth the squeeze when it comes to the terror portion of it. I can't think of anything. Skydiving, no chance.
Yeah, I know.
Running of the bulls, there's a reason it was my dad and my sister that went.
That's
and not
awesome.
Little brother. He didn't have any interest in it at all.
How old were you when they went?
I was like 20.
All right.
Yeah, no, I was of age, and then they went skydiving when I think I was of age, but no.
Oh, they both. Wow, geez, Corey.
No, they did it. My sister has it. I do like roller coasters. I think that's my limit. Like a season pass to Six Flags is the most extreme I would do.
Yeah. I couldn't do the crab boating. I mean, just those boats. I would definitely get seasick on the waves they deal with in the Bering Sea and the cold, and then the smell of the dead.
No, I could not do that. I watched Deadliest Catch for like 7 seasons until I realized every single season and show was the exact same.
Are they going to do it, Corey? Are they going to catch enough crab this time?
I hope their pot's full. Oh, look at that. And look at the music. Oh, no. What's Sig going to do now? They didn't meet their quota. Like, I don't care. But, yeah, I say it took me 7 seasons to realize it. But, yeah, no, I watched that thinking, because you watch that show thinking, I wonder how I would do as a greenhorn on this boat. Yeah. And it's like, well, I don't take speed. I don't smoke cigarettes. I hate the water. I hate the cold. And I'm not a particularly hard worker. And I know one of those cages would knock me overboard. So no thanks. I'll just watch it. Yeah.
What about climbing Everest, Corey?
Nope. No interest. I read about it. But even now, it's like, number one, I don't have any interest now because so many people do it.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know if you saw that picture from whenever the last climbing season was. Maybe it was this climbing season. The log jam to get to the peak is like 100 people deep.
Oh, never mind then. Yeah,
you have to wait, and they get their 90 seconds, and then they get off, and then you go, and it's like, man, this is like being it. I know it's not, but it's like, posing with Mickey Mouse. Like, oh, you wait your turn, okay, or get an autograph from somebody. Like, oh, you got to wait 30 minutes. It's a long line, but it's worth it. It's like, yeah, this seems too corporate and too it's too attainable now to even be all that fun. Now, again, I know people still die, and they really have to train to do it, and the elements are awful, but still, no, I'd rather watch movies and read books about it.
All right. I lied. There's one other one before we get to the top 40.
Let's go. Let's do it.
I lost it. It was right in front of me. Primetime 92. Good morning, ladies.
Don't even read. Don't even.
I know.
Reading.
Next. All right. So, anyways, 11-15.
Right.
Primetime 92 says, I was very impressed to hear Corey's bench press numbers last week. I regret ever calling him sloppy on a past show question.
Oh,
Corey's now wife laughed.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate the apology.
To my question, what was your weight at the end of high school and college? Has it changed a lot to what it is now? Also, could 4 Warchant employees move an offensive line sled 15 yards? Could we try to make this happen? Probably, but I don't want to do that. No.
Not in one push.
Well, yeah, clearly. Yeah.
I mean, if it give us about 10 or 12 minutes, we could get it. We could definitely move it 15 yards, but no way in one push could we do that. There's not enough power. So no, I don't think so.
Every time I see that sled, that's where we hang out while we're waiting for Mike to come to his post practice. I always want to hit it, but I'm like, it's gonna hurt my elbow so bad. It's like a 1-man sled.
Yeah.
That you just like you punch it and then you extend your hands out and then you chop your feet and you move it. And I'm just like,
and it's not going to go anywhere.
No.
It's going to make a noise. It's going to rise up a little and then come back down. And you're going to be like, that didn't feel good at all.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I don't know if, and to hit a sled. And the thing is, it's one thing to move it, and then it's to move it directly forward, right? Like, the left side might move and the right side might not pick up their weight, or vice versa. And then you're going in circles. It'd just be a nightmare.
And then the weight, I mean, I've been about, I would guess, I don't know. The lowest I've ever weighed was right before I met Shanna, which was when I was still late in college. But I weighed myself. I got up to a 190 in college.
Man. And
then I lost 50 pounds. It got down. When I met Shanna, I weighed 140 pounds, which was too skinny. Yeah. That was 1997. But I feel like when I left high school, I was probably 160, 155, 160. And that's kind of always where I've fluctuated. It's between like 180 and 160. Somewhere around there. So, So I put on like 20 pounds in college immediately.
Yeah.
And then kind of worked back to where I needed to be. I got chubby for about a year and a half, and then got rid of all that. Started going to class. And to go to class, I had to walk to class. And I lost weight that way. So, yeah, that's as most people do. I gained some weight my freshman year in college. It took me about a year to decide I wanted to get rid of it. And then, so I've been kind of between 160 and 180 ever since.
How'd you drop from 190 to 140?
That was the same thing. I started walking. I didn't like myself. I didn't like my girlfriend at the time. I wanted a new one. I needed. It was too toxic, and I was like, well, you're not going to get anybody looking like this, sloppy. So I just started walking. I started working out more, but basically I was just walking a lot. And maybe instead of 2 helpings of hamburger helper, I would only have 1.
Okay.
And that's what I did. It's pretty easy to lose weight when you're 22 or 21. It's pretty. You can just start walking and not eating as much, and it just flies off.
Yeah, I was always scrawny. So I graduated high school, I think, weighing 140. And I was probably like 5'10" or so. By sophomore year of college, I was up to 160 because I would drink Budweiser instead of Bud Light, and I was eating mozzarella sticks like every single day. So I got to 160, but then I got on the sauce, and I weighed 205, like a good 205, like a really good 205. But obviously you can't maintain that when you're off the sauce. So I fluctuate now between like 170 and like 180, but like 170, 175. I really don't hit 180, which I wish I could, but I've been 32-inch waist, 40-inch chest, 32-inch inseam for the last 20 years, which is kind of cool. Like people like constantly have to they lose weight and they're so excited and they're like, well, I got to buy new clothes. And I'm like, man, I've bought new clothes over the last 20 years. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't had to go buy 5 different things. I'm like, I don't have pants that fit me anymore.
Right.
So yeah, my dad is the same thing. My brother's the same thing. There's clothes I would wear from my dad that from his youth that fit me. And it's like, that's cool. Like I'm like, if our kids, they'll probably be able to wear my stuff for a long time. Cause I talked to a girl one time, Corey, that her major was textile design. And she said that literally my stats was what the fashion industry uses to design men's clothes. Like 6'1", 180 or 170 is like a size medium for a man with a 40-inch chest and a 32-inch waist. So like all sizes are based off of that. And then they make it smaller, they make it larger based off of that. So
how'd the second date go?
Oh,
sorry.
Things happen.
All right. Understood.
All that to say, though, I was thinking about this, Corey. I wonder if I would give up. I still wish I weighed more. I wish I weighed 185, but a nice, not just a sloppy 10 pounds onto my body. But I wonder if I would give up 10 pounds and drop to 165 if I could get my hair back. Because I do wonder if that stuff affected my hair.
Maybe. Could have, yeah.
And I wonder, but I'm like, my hair's not horrible.
You can always wear a hat.
Yeah, I'm like, in a way, I feel all right, I can when I'm on the boat, taking my shirt off and stuff, being in high school, growing up in Tampa, and everybody every weekend wants to go to the beach, and all your friends are on the football team, and then you guys go to the beach and you take your shirt off. It's like, man,
some pressure. Yeah,
this is why I'm not, this is why I'm really going to have to pull a rabbit out the hat for homecoming and ask a freshman to go with me as a senior. So I did.
I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah. That tracks out.
Hey, you know what? I have to urinate. So what's the top 40? What are we talking about? Just so we dropped one?
11 to 15. You didn't even tell me about it, Corey. I thought we were friends and you would let me know about these things. But let's let our good friends over at the what you call it, the jingle. Let's let them break us in here. Where is it at here? Is it not even on my board anymore? I lost it. It's not even on my board anymore, the top 40 thing. So I ruined it all. But yeah,
that's too bad.
We're at 11 to 15. Number 15, DJ Lundy. Number 14, Earl Little. Number 13, Jalen Lucas. 12, Fentrell Cypress. Number 11, Lawrence Toafili.
I like that it was, and I wrote this one for the website. I like that it's bookended by 2 5-year Florida State recruits, 2 guys out of his first recruiting class. That's cool. That's cool. You might say what you want about Lundy, or I guess Toafili for that matter. No, they're not Telvin Smith and Dalvin Cook, but they are solid college football players. Toafili's a good college football running back. I think Lundy's more solid than good, but they're both solid. They both played a lot for you. I think Lundy has 180 career tackles. He's got a few touchdowns playing fullback for you, and it's cool that those guys are mixed with the transfer guys. I just think that's a neat kind of fivesome that you have on the bookends of it. 2 dudes that have been through all of it with Norvell and Atkins and Fuller and the gang. and they're really important. They're going to be vitally important. Toafili obviously is probably your starting running back. Even if he doesn't start, he's going to play a ton because he always does. And we definitely think Lundy's going to be in the rotation and probably starting too. And he's impactful because he's the guy with the most experience at a position that you need experience. So I just thought that was kind of neat that they went from, I don't know, that Lundy's been on this list higher than 33 since he's been here. And then for him to be top 15 and to be warranted is cool to see.
He was 38th last year.
Yeah. And he's bumped up to 15. Part of that is because you don't have a ton there, but part of it is because he's proven he can play. Like even in a backup role last year, I think he started 4 games, but he had 50 or 60 tackles. He was probably 4th on the team in tackles. He's got a pretty good instinct on defense. He's physical. He should be good against the run. Your defensive line up the middle should make him good against the run. And he's got a lot of experience, and you can't really put a price tag on that.
What are your thoughts about that fivesome compared to last year's, which was Tatum and Kalen were tied for 14th. Renardo Green was 13th. Shaheem was 12th. Robert Scott was 11th.
Yeah, probably not as good, but I don't think this team is as talented.
Right.
So it makes sense. But it's a good fivesome. Cypress, in the what? So no, it's not as good as that. It doesn't. I don't know that any of these guys are going to be second round picks like Renardo. But man, the guy that we'll be talking about a lot is number 13 there. I think that's his number too.
Yeah,
Jalen Lucas is a real difference maker. I don't think Norvell has had a guy like this here. Like he's had guys that are smaller stature, like Webb, Trayshawn Ward even, but this is like Trayshawn Ward with speed. He might not be a better running back. Like he's probably not a guy you give the ball 18 times a game. It could ground out tough first downs like Trayshawn could. But he's about the same stature, but is an absolute game wrecker. He is a game breaker. And it's going to be cool to see what that looks like in a Mike Norvell offense. He might be too low even at 13, even as the backup running back, because he's not going to get as many touches as Toafili, or maybe even Roydell Williams. But, man, he's going to make an impact with those touches.
You know what I think he is? I think he's like a they call like a poor man's whatever. He's a rich man's Corey Wren. I think like when they recruited Corey Wren, they were hoping he would give them this side to side, just ridiculous speed option kind of guy. Not like a speed option play, but like a speed option. It's going to be really interesting to see if they can utilize him within a practice, you can work on some stuff that you want to install. I wonder, like factoring him into an actual game, into a game, the flow of a game, figuring out a way to put him on the field. And I know like his speed is universal, but like obviously he comes into the game and checks in there. He's going to get a little bit more of attention. Finding out the way to set him up for success is going to be like the real task, because he's got the skills and Mike Norvell's got the mindset and the moxie, the acumen to figure it out. But I wonder how much of it's going to be dictated by opponent game situation to where they're like, all right, we can use Jalen now, or is Jalen just an evergreen option? Like it doesn't matter the score, down and distance. Like they just feel like they can put him in at any time and he'll
I think he's a guy that they go into every game thinking he needs 8 touches, and maybe he gets 95 yards out of those 8 touches, or maybe only gets 60 yards out of those 8 touches, but 52 come on the game-winning touchdown. Like, I just think he's a guy you have to get the ball in his hands 6 to 8 to 10 times a game, and he's going to make something happen. Yeah. Just like I'm about to pee in my pants, I'm going to make something happen.
All right. We did it, everybody. I think Jeff Cameron Show 1 to 3 o'clock. Check that out. Check out warchant.com throughout the day, the weekend, recruiting updates, and the like. We got you covered, warchant.com. For Corey Mazel, thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.